So then I'm left with a shaggy back on my head.
Same way. All right, I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Then I got everything recording, I believe. Yeah, I'm good. All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Grind Official. This is another interview with UFC star Modestas Bukauskas. Got a big fight coming up against Michael Oleksichuk, March 27th. So Modestas, first of all, how did I do on that pronunciation?
I actually think you didn't do too bad. Some other people butchered it way worse. I believe it's Michal Oleksichuk.
Oleksichuk?
Obviously, me having that Eastern European heritage, I guess it's a bit easier to say. But yeah, man.
I've heard because the first he fought, I forget who he fought a while back, but I was listening to Dan Hardy say it, and Dan Hardy was saying it like you were saying it, but then I heard I think it was Bruce Buffer said it different, so I don't know, man.
Everyone's got their own pronunciation, isn't it? But then again, it's like when Bruce Buffer says it, is it really wrong? No.
Exactly. Because when Bruce Buffer says it, none of if they don't make a face or anything, they're not like, then that's the right.
All right, we'll go with that. Yeah. No doubt.
All right, man. So my first question is, what does training look like for you on like a weekly level? How often are you in the gym, and are you sparring hard or light, or what does training look like for you weekly?
Yeah, well, it's pretty intense actually. It's definitely been ramped up like the last couple of weeks. I felt the last 2 weeks even, like already midway through the week, I'm thinking, oh my God, I just want to chop my legs off. I just want to chop my arms off and just like not feel the pain and the soreness. But I've been managing to push through, and every time I push through, it seems like my cardio gets better or my muscular endurance gets better and my technique and stuff like that. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let your body rest and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is all I do. So training twice a day is sort of just about enough for me. And me being young still, so the body does heal up quite fast. But yeah, pretty much I train twice a day, pretty much every day apart from Sunday. And Saturday I only train once. I've added certain things that I've needed to do, but yeah, usually it's 2 sessions. I either do one grappling and one striking, or one sort of sparring or something else. But everything that I'm doing is all very specific to my opponent. We had a team meeting today and stuff like that to go over tactics and stuff like that. So we're just taking everything just really seriously. I spar pretty much about two or 3 times a week, and yeah, I mean it's intense. It's not like pity patty, and it's like you have to go to try and land your shots because you want to make it as realistic towards a fight as possible. And it's good. I've been sparring a lot of southpaws as well. I've just started going up to Team Renegade for the sparring, mainly just because they got good looks, different guys. They've got Leon Edwards up there, Fabian. So they got some high level guys up there, and it's good to mix it up because although I have very good training partners who dedicate their time just to make me better and help me, which is absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful I have those guys. It's nice to also mix things up so you get different looks, and then it makes it more realistic to having that fight feel, which is exactly what I want. Which I feel is what's going to bring the best out of me when it comes to March. So yeah, man, it's been very intense. There's been some days where I really like my legs are shaking. I don't feel like going, but I push through it. And yeah, like I say, I'm only going to be 27 in a couple of weeks. So my body's pretty much primed to perform. So I might as well make the most of it.
Right. And then what is the cut like for you? Is it difficult, or do you have problems with it at all?
It seems like it's been a bit more difficult this time around, but at the same time, I'm taking a bit of a slower approach. So I think, I automatically panic if things aren't going as quickly because normally I lean up so quick. People look at me one week and they look at me another week. They're like, what the hell? How the hell did you manage to get from, having a bit of a dad bod to getting a 6-pack already in a week? Like, how does that even happen? Most of the time, obviously, it's just like, my body does hold a lot of water. I think that's what I'm quite grateful for, is my body holds water like quite well, but it also releases it quite well. So, I mean, if you look at my UFC debut, I didn't cut any water at all. I literally woke up on the day I was 206 pounds on the day of the weigh-in. So no water cut. Second time round, I sort of did things a bit differently, ate a bit more, kind of left the cut a little bit later as well. So I ended up having to drop 10 pounds in water. But I felt that was better for me overall because then it mean my body was just sucking up any water that it could. And so I walked into the cage that day at like 218 pounds, where Jimmy Crute said that he was 220 actually on the day. So I think even a bit heavy, he might have even said. So for this time round, I mean, I'm taking it slow, but the cuts it's never an issue, especially at light heavyweight. Now middleweight, that's a different story. Hell no, I'll literally have to chop my own arm off just to make middleweight. But in terms of light heavyweight, I mean, if I'll have to cut 10 pounds, okay. But realistically, I reckon if I get my body fat percentage down to the level that I really want it to, it won't be anywhere upwards from really 7 or 8 pounds. So it's quite an easy cut for me, to be fair.
Have you fought at middleweight before?
Yeah, I did at the beginning of my career. I had 4 fights at middleweight, and yeah, I looking back now, I'm like, why did he even do that? But I think my body hadn't naturally filled out. I think as the years go on, I mean, I started my pro career at 21, so I think, you know, your body naturally fills out. That's why I say a lot of guys who are middleweight at that age, like, you're still developing, you're still, you know, training into that body that you're going to use, like when you're going to be fighting. So you know, but yeah, I was a lot skinnier back then as well. I mean, I look at pictures back then, and even in high school and stuff like that, where I used to like flex with all the girls and everything, and I'm thinking I'm massive, and then next thing you know, I'm looking at these pictures, I'm like, these girls must have thinking, is this guy on drugs or something? Because hey, I was a skinny kid. So, but yeah, it's definitely changed over time, that's for sure.
Gotcha. So you had 2 back-to-back losses in 2016, and then you had some injuries or whatever else was going on behind the scenes, but then you came back and absolutely were demolishing everyone. Do you think the time off, even if it was for injury reasons, do you think it helped you mentally and physically to kind of just recover from that vigorous, you know, training regimen?
I think so. After the second loss, it highlighted areas that I needed to work on and things that I needed to do to perform at my best. One of which I needed was the aggression in the cage. And one thing that definitely helped was doing boxing sparring, because those guys do not hold back. They are going like a backyard brawl. They're going to try and take, especially if they hear, oh, he's an MMA fighter, is it? All right, well, we'll show him what boxing's all about. Yeah. So, but I had some wars in the ring, but that gave me the aggression to show that you need to be flipping switched on straight away. One other thing I noticed was that I was malnourished, and so I mean, making middleweight was hard enough, but the fact that I was even malnourished to try and make that weight just showed another sort of area that I was lacking, and I was overtrained. I mean, I've talked about it. You know, I said it in an early. You asked me what my training regimen's like, but you know, I never overdo it. I've got the whoop strap and everything that shows me what my recovery's like and stuff like that. So I take all of that scientifically very seriously now. That was one thing I didn't do. And then I realized that was what then caused sort of injuries and stuff like that. To be honest, by the end of that year, I would have felt like I was ready to kill anyone. But I think it derailed my motivation when, you know, I was dating this girl for quite a long time, for about 5 years. We ended up splitting up because, you know, obviously distance. She lived in Louisiana, I lived here. Obviously, I think long term nothing's gonna really work there. But as well, kept asking the question of, you know, like, when you're going to stop doing this fight career. I get it, because obviously you want to live your life and we all want to like do something, but I've got a goal to achieve. I said I'll stop doing this when I'm UFC champion. Like, I'm not, you know, everyone was trying to sort of make in the direction me. As soon as I injured my leg, everyone made it in the direction that I should like quit. And then, you know, the sponsor that I had for a long time, he just completely left afterwards. Again, I have no blame, because he'd literally been helping me for so many years. I would not have been able to train full time if it weren't for him. So you know, I had to give him massive credit as well. But at the same time, left me at a point where I've got a busted leg. I've just split up with my missus, and next thing you know, sponsor leaves. So I have no money, no job, nothing. My leg's fucked, and the only jobs that I can do are physical. So I'm like, what the hell do I do now? I was really at rock bottom. One thing that helped was that everything in terms of recovery happened quite quickly. Got to thank the Lord for the NHS in this country. Is absolutely amazing. The health service. Literally, I told them what injury I had because I just got the MRI done, and then they booked an operation for the week after. So in that respect, everything happened quite quickly. So and then obviously I was on my road to recovery. But yeah, there were a lot of days where I was quite depressed. I'm like, I was thinking of myself like, I'm such a promising person. I've been involved in martial arts most of my life. I've been sparring with John Jones. Like, even those 2 losses, I was like, why the hell is this even happening? Like, I've literally been doing everything right. I've been training. I've been not seeing friends. I've been making so many sacrifices. So when you do everything and you're thinking, well, things still aren't going right, you're like, your head's like in a massive crazy space. But I think the main thing that helped me through all of that was probably my family, like my dad, my stepmom, my sister. They and some very close people to me. They're always checking up on me, seeing how I was. I mean, even days when I was crying, they're always there. My dad was the main one that was telling me to pick myself back up. He said, Modestas, this ain't over. Like, you've got plenty of years ahead of you. We're going to get through this. We're going to get out of it. And he was the main one that pushed me out of it. And then ever since, sort of he gave me those sort of conversations day by day, slowly the motivation came back, the inspiration came back. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to show you fuckers that I'm going to come back and do the business, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong, because everyone counted me out at that point. 2 losses in a row. He's got injured. He's gone for ages. We know nothing about him. Cage Warriors didn't even want to answer the call to us. And then when we got back into training, we got out of it, and then we took the first kickboxing fight, and then went and knocked the guy out in within I think 12 seconds. Then I started making some noise, and then Cage Warriors wanted to give us a fight. So it was good, because it showed me that I've had the worst things happen to me. So it shows me that any adversity I face, just like what I'd faced in my last fight, there's always some sort of learning curve to come from it. There was a reason why I lost those 2 fights. There's a reason why I lost my last fight. And the thing is that you have to find and see what the things are that you need to improve in order to get yourself back on the winning streak. And the things that I adjusted helped me in the past, and the things that I've adjusted now are going to help in the future. So it was great to have those lessons. And another thing I've got to realize is, sorry, I keep going on, obviously.
Oh, hey, it's all good.
One thing I've got to realize is everyone's journey is different. I mean, you look at Israel Adesanya, you look at, John Jones, guys who are undefeated and stuff like that. You're thinking, well, surely I should have been on this undefeated path, and I want to be undefeated. And everyone's looking at that thing, but we always got to remember, you got to bring yourself back down to earth and think everyone's journey is different. Those guys learned early, or those guys had athletic attributes that were more in their favor, and fair play to them. And that's good. They used it to their advantage. But okay, my journey is different, and this is my journey, no one else's. Okay, I had to have these losses to make the lessons appropriately to go out and go on a tear. So one thing I will promise you is that I've made the correct adjustments from the last time, and we're going to go on another tear after this loss. So, like I say, I almost feel like history's repeating itself, and it's going to repeat itself once again in the upward spiral that I know it will be.
Yeah, you said, your journey's special. Your journey's different than everyone else's, and I completely agree. Like George St Pierre, some people think is the greatest of all time, and he, in his prime, lost twice. And, he was able to come back and avenge those losses, and a lot of people consider him the greatest of all time now. So you're completely right. I totally agree with you. So you talked about John Jones and, training down there at Jackson Wink. What kind of are like the big takeaways that you get from those guys down there?
Well, do you know what? It was quite a big. The first time I went there, they just got into their facility, and then I was sort of training a bit more with Andrei Arlovsky, who really took me in quite well. He paid for me to stay another week, which is a very, very generous and nice of him. Obviously, it helped me as well. Like over in these big gyms, I feel like at that time I was still trying to make a name for myself. So obviously but at the same time, like, the thing is, I can talk from both sides. I mean, Mike Winklejohn saw the potential in me, and he offered to help train me personally, like take me on a pad sessions. I thought that was very nice. And again, so that's where, if they see a potential in someone, they will go out their way to help someone. Same with John Jones. He went out his way to help me and stuff like that. And obviously, at the same time, if they're seeing value from someone that's coming into the gym, then they're gonna use them as well for the other person's training. So I was then ended up, as much as training for my own fight, I was also helping Jones with preparation for his fight. So, at the time, I think, it sort of lacked the specificity, that's the word, specificity that I needed for my fight, because they had to worry about their big time players. So, but at the same time, it was a great learning experience to spar against one of like pretty much the greatest of all time and some of the best athletes out there and learn their little tricks of the trade and stuff like that. But obviously, you're a small fish in a big pond sort of thing. So, although the training was amazing and I had some great experiences, it just lacked for me the things that I needed for myself. But I understand, because at the end of the day, I'm paying the gym. I'm not actually paying, particular coaches, whereas those fighters are, and they're getting their expertise and they're having to concentrate on them, because obviously they're fighting on the UFC. At that time, I was fighting on UCMMA, a show in London. So, but aside from that, I love the atmosphere. I love the camaraderie that they had in the gym. Everything was very well organized. So, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of good things out there. But looking at my training now, I do believe that the way my training is structured now is better than it was there. Only because, like I say, I have everything that's geared towards me, and I've got very good training partners in all different aspects. So, like I say, I'm very blessed to have those sort of the opportunities and the people to help me, and that they've been around me pretty much now, especially in the later half of my career.
Right. I do wonder how some of these bigger gyms have, like American Top Team and like a lot of the super gyms, I feel like, how can you manage that many stars,
I often wonder about American Top Team, because they've got a lot of high level fighters.
So many.
You're trying to figure out, how do they dedicate? I mean, I think that obviously they all have their particular group sessions. I think it's more like the specific one-on-one sessions that obviously they have to then take time with the coaches and stuff like that. But obviously when they train in a group, then everyone's just all training together. The coaches can just work and stuff like that. But it's difficult. I mean, it's good in terms of getting different looks in terms of sparring partners and high level athletes to train with. But what I found is you don't really need all the best guys. Conor McGregor was a great example of that. You don't need all the best guys. You can train with a select group of people that are always pushing you every day to learn certain things in the game, and you can get towards the very, very top of the sport. So I think the philosophy on training and stuff like that in big gyms is definitely taking a turn. I think a lot of people are finding themselves, they're honing everything more in their home grounds. Like, you got Chaos Williams and Joaquin Buckley and those guys, they're training in their particular space and they're finding success. It's just how you are able to implement those techniques in your fight. Like the fights where I lost, I just didn't show up on the night. So you can be as good as you want, you can be as skillful as you want, but if you're not showing up on the night, then you're not progressing your way up the ranks. You're not making a statement. So there's so many things that go into this MMA game, but that's why you got to love it.
Yeah. So you're kickboxing. You're a 4-time kickboxing champion. Do you feel like with that comes some sort of, not responsibility, but like you kind of feel like you are better at striking, for lack of a better word, than a lot of these guys at 205?
Yeah, no, I've always thought. I mean, listen, I'll go and spar with some boxers, and I go train a box. They're always telling me you should go into boxing. There's way more money involved. You could be a big star and this and that. And I'm like, I've stuck with the MMA. I've dedicated my life to this. I'm going to stick with it and stuff like that. Who knows? I may have a boxing fight in the future and show that us MMA fighters, we can box as well. But yeah, I mean, look, obviously, most of the time people are scared of my striking. I mean, you've seen in the last couple of fights in Cage Warriors, none of them wanted to even deal with the striking. They just went straight for grappling, which is why then I've made more of a focus on grappling and stuff like that over the years, which was my most significant hole. But as we can see now, grappling's clearly not a problem with me. I've stopped many a takedown against some of the best guys. So and even against Michailidis, who was also European champion in kickboxing, I showed my striking prowess in that fight. So it's it's just a case of me showing myself. I think like when I put too much focus on grappling and defense and stuff like that, it doesn't let me show out who I really am. I mean, if you look at tapes of me when I was freaking 9 years old, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, why can't I just fight like that again? Do you know what I mean? Because I have so much in the repertoire and so much in the tank that it just has not been unleashed yet. It's like, and I've said that for every single fight, and it's like, people are often wondering, and I know people are probably even saying like, so when is like that side actually going to come out then? Because you keep talking about it, people are thinking, well, maybe it's not even there, but it is. And like I say, I just needed the appropriate changes in mindset, the appropriate types of training sessions to get me to really put it out there. And all I can say is next fight is definitely going to be shown.
So at the light heavyweight division, obviously there's a lot going on. You got Jan Blachowicz as a champion right now, and he's fighting Izzy. I don't know if is that fight scheduled, actually? Do you know?
Yeah, March 6th, I believe.
Okay, gotcha. So, yeah, so, wow, I don't know. I can't believe I forgot about that. But yeah, you got a lot of moving pieces. You still got some contenders at the top. John Jones has left. He's going up now. With that fight with Izzy and Jan Blachowicz, how do you see it playing out?
Listen, I think obviously Adesanya is going to have the speed factor. He's probably going to have the technique factor in terms of kickboxing, but is in a smaller cage, so there's going to be less space to move. And obviously, smaller cage, bigger cage, whatever, that's really not much of a factor. At the end of the day, you still know how to fight, and you can still do what you got to do. So Izzy is a bit more dynamic with his striking, obviously. We've seen him defend against, in terms of takedowns, against some of the best guys in the division. So you got to give him credit there. But listen, Jan Blachowicz, he lands one of those big left hooks, and it could be night, for what anyone knows. I mean, I'm rooting for my man Blachowicz because, from Europe and doing so well and gone on an absolute tear. He's very strong, very powerful. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. And he's got a good takedown defense himself, and I'm sure he'll be able to attack if he wants to. So it's a very interesting stylistic fight, and there's going to be a bit of a weight advantage for Blachowicz, because I believe that probably Adesanya will be walking in at the weight that he weighs in at, whereas Blachowicz will probably be at least 10 pounds heavier, the 10 if not 15 pounds heavier. So all of those factors are going to come into play. I mean, listen, I don't want to give out a prediction, but I mean, I'm rooting for Blachowicz, because I do think that he does have the attributes to win this fight, and people are counting him out. But you can't deny the raw talent and ability of Adesanya, and obviously he's going to be working extensively to figure out his game. So it'll be an interesting fight. I think that was a very clever move by the UFC, because it definitely creates a lot of questions, and that's what you want when you're matching fights.
Sorry. So if you could describe your fight style in one word, what would it be? I know it's a tough question.
By the way that I'm gonna go and fight now, I'll give you a word that is going to describe how I'm going to fight, and that is flamboyant.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Flamboyant. Well, I'm excited now, man.
I can't wait.
So, if you could fight anyone, 185 or 205 through history, it could be Pride, could be UFC, anyone throughout history, who would you fight?
I mean, this has always been my the fight that I've said. Everyone's always asked me this question. I've always said John Jones, and I just, for me, it's like he is the greatest of all time. He was the youngest ever UFC champion, like an incredible athlete, like never been beaten and stuff like that. So to be the guy that will be able to beat him, it would be an honor just sharing the cage with someone like that. So someone of such a who's been such an inspiration to me, like coming up in the MMA game as well. Like, he gave me so much glimpses of motivation and stuff like that. So, fighting a guy like that, and then, even just to be in the cage, like I say, in the presence of such a champion like that, who's defended it so many times, absolute honor for me. So yeah, that would be the fight that I would love. That would be my dream fight.
That is a good one, man. Because you think he's the greatest of all time. I absolutely agree. I mean, like he has never been beaten, and people forget, just because of his recent fights, people forget how good he was when he was young, when he first became champion. He was taking out all these names, Lyoto Machida, like Rampage. He was beating all these guys, and people just forget that.
Yeah, he dominated the top champions at the time. And obviously the game's evolving and stuff like that, but he's very clever. You got to realize he plays a clever game. He doesn't play a stupid game. He's playing the game that's gonna give him victories. And even with the fights that, you know, obviously it seemed as though it was quite close. At the end of the day, close or not, he gets the win, and you know, he lands the significant strikes to finish those fights. And if you look at, you know, always whenever there's some sort of injury or, you know, or whatever, like there's been cause from what he's been doing or how he's moving, and he's a smart guy. So yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. That's all the questions I got. Really looking forward to your fight come March time, man. I wish you the best, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I can't wait to go out and put on a show for all of you lot. Like I say, Baltic Gladiator 2.0 is coming out in full swing on March 27th. But much love, my man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for doing this, brother. Appreciate it.
Have a lovely day, yeah?
You too.